Welcome to the first part of our video series for unpacking the meaning and the definition of the word worship. The series is going to start by utilizing Justin Taylor's 6 definitions that he outlines on the Gospel Coalition, a Gospel Coalition blog that he wrote, which I'll link to in the description if you want to go read each of these definitions. It's a pretty short blog post that really just describes each of the 6 definitions. The first definition Justin references is Harold Best's broad definition of worship. So Harold Best served for decades as the dean of the Conservatory of Music at Wheaton College. He's written 2 books. One is called Music Through the Eyes of Faith, and then the other one's called Unceasing Worship. So this is Best's definition of worship. And he says in Unceasing Worship, he says, worship is the continuous outpouring of all that I am, all that I do, all that I can ever be in the light of chosen and choosing God. So let me say it again. Worship is the continuous outpouring of all that I am, all that I do, and all that I can ever be in light of a chosen and choosing God. So let's break this down piece by piece and let's try to understand a little bit more. So continuous outpouring. We are often or frequently overflowing, excited. We're, amped up about something, right? So that would be that continuous outpouring. And Best would say that we can't not be like this, that this is a very common thing for humans, that we are going to be this excited, overflowing, outpouring person as we go. So in all that I am, right? So all that I am adds to this sense of identity, adds a sense of self, adds a sense of belonging. So when I'm worshiping something, right, I'm doing this outflowing, this excitement about something that I believe that I'm associated with or that I belong to or that I identify with. All that I do, right, so now we get into action, we get into behavior, we get into habits and goals, right? So these things that I worship, they're going to lead into the way I behave and the way I act and how I set my goals in my life. All that I can ever become, that's a visions and an expectations or a future orientation, right? So I'm going to worship things in a way that's going to point me in a trajectory towards something and going to have me moving in that direction. And it's going to impact my actions and my behaviors and my sense of identity and self. Okay, then a chosen or choosing God, right? And if you read his definition in Unceasing Worship, it's little g God, right? So God in this sense doesn't mean the God of the Bible. God in this sense means essentially anything to be adored, admired, or idolized. So when we are deciding what to worship, I mean, there are good things we can worship and there are bad things we can worship. So we can worship concepts like fame, power, comfort. We can worship created things like money, houses, jobs, cars. We can worship more biblical things, let's say like the one true God of the Bible. So some of this is derived from sin. Some of this is derived from a righteousness or an actual biblical perspective. Paul says in Romans 1, verse 24, therefore God gave them over to the sinful desires of their hearts, right? He continues on in 25. They exchanged the truth about God for a lie and worshiped and served created things rather than the Creator, who is praised forever. So when we see Best's definition, Best is saying, hey, this worship idea, right? It's this continuous outpouring, this excitement, this overflowing, and it relates into what I am, my identity. It relates into what I do, my behaviors, my actions, my beliefs, and my habits. It relates also to what I can become or my expectations or my future trajectory. Now, in the light of something, right? That something can be good or that something can be bad, that something can be sinful, that something can be biblical. So this idea of worship in Best's mind is pretty general and it's pretty broad. In the next part of the series, we're going to look at Jonathan Gibson's definition of worship. And Jonathan Gibson is much more direct about worship being biblical, it being directed toward the God of the Bible and the Creator. I hope you'll join me in the next video. I hope you'll join me in the next part of this series when we look at Jonathan Gibson's definition. If you liked the video or if you learned something from it, consider subscribing, like it, share it, kind of help me get it out there so people can see this. This is part of a bigger series that I'm working on right now, which is a STEM as worship series to try to help folks understand and think about science, technology, engineering, and math, how it could be served as worship to God. You can find me on social media platforms. I'm at Dr. C.A. Hickson on all of those platforms. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you in the future.